So should I share with everybody what I was saying to you offline a few minutes ago, that I feel like even though only 2 weeks have gone by,
Definitely,
that it feels like
definitely.
months?
Yes, yes. Go ahead, go ahead. Your
That's it. Like, I feel like, and I have thought about you particularly so many times in the last 2 weeks.
mm,
And it's not just because of the nature of what we've all been experiencing. I think that at times like this, for me at least, because I can only speak for me,
sure.
um, I really become aware of how precious relationships are to me, and how precious certain relationships are, right? When there's those two things we need for growth in life: challenge and support.
Mm,
And when there's so much challenge, and we're looking at that balancing piece, which is the support, and people who aren't just saying they're going to be there, they're there. And even if they're not there all the time, you can feel them there, right?
mm,
You can feel that they're present in your life. It's not just words, it's actions, it's something real and tangible. So I think for that reason, you've definitely been with me a lot the last 2 weeks. So
yeah.
I appreciate that.
Hey, no, I'm the one to definitely say that, truly appreciate it. And it's been a rough the first week that it happened, when I really wasn't. And we're talking about, the issue in America right now, the tension, the governance, the just everything about the brutality. And I think I perceive this conversation's gonna that's where the stake is gonna be in the ground today, right?
Yeah.
But I thank you for expressing that, right? And it's it's not only because of what's going on, right? Black men getting murdered, etc. It's what community is. When your house is burning down, I'm gonna come and bring my bucket brigade to 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 pour water on it. If
Mm.
if an Asian house is burning down, we'll put it there. If a white house is burning down, if a black house is burning down. So when I hear Black Lives Matter, doesn't minimize or truncate the other races. It's my house is burning down now. So if my house is burning and I verbalize it, don't don't stone me for verbalizing my fact. And it's
Yeah.
what we talk here, our stories. You can't, once you stifle or you shut down somebody's expression to speak their story or do how they're supposed to 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 behave. When you stop that, what occurs is a build up. A buildup occurs, and a buildup occurs, and it keeps building up and up and up, and then there's no way to hold it anymore, right? And then that's when the dam breaks. And when the dam breaks, this is what occurs. What we're seeing. Um, but I tell you, thank you for, you said, in challenging times, challenging support. Thank you for your support. I know you sent me numerous texts, you called, and I was always, I don't know what, I was out there building a deck in the back. I was crying, I sent a text to a couple of people. I don't know if I'm coming or going. I don't know if I'm standing or sitting. I don't know if I am laughing or crying. I don't know if I am true or false. I don't know if I'm mourning or you know or smiling. I just don't know, Traci. I don't. It's but it over time. It says time heals, but I don't want time to heal because listen to this piece. When time heals, most people, when they hear time heals, they say, oh, time heals and I forget. But no, you don't forget when time's healing. You just learn how to cope with it. One. Two, if time heals, most people, when time heals and then laissez-faire, we continue going as is. So I don't want time to heal. I want us to keep talking, because the narrative is you have a story. You have a story. I have a story. We all have stories. And in the process of walking on this earth, as we pass each other by and we smell the fragrances of our stories, and they're not pungent to us because it's different, smell it, right? Smell it. Once you allow yourself to smell it, you can go and so why? Why that smell? Well, that smell is because of X, Y, and Z. Not, right?
Right.
Back to you, sis.
I really, I'm taking in, I found myself being very quiet in the last 2 weeks, more quiet than usual. Normally I like to sit and feel into things, but I love what you said about not knowing, because I remember a couple of episodes ago, you mentioned in our conversation, you're like, and it's okay not to know, right? It's okay not to have the answers. And I think to the point you just made, in that in-between place, because we're so quick to want to have answers. There's a problem, we want to fix it. And the quicker we fix something, the quicker, as you said, it goes away. Or at least I don't think we've been good for a long time, at least in this country, about fixing things. We just Band-Aid them. So it's kind of this concept of like putting a rug over something. Just because you can't see it means it's not there, but that's not what it means, right? And so the more we just want to stick a Band-Aid on it, we hide it temporarily, but we don't address it. We don't truly heal it. And the process of healing, there's a reason we're meant to feel in order to heal, right? If we don't feel, like I've spoken to all sorts of friends the last 2 weeks, not just my Black friends, but friends of all sorts, a lot of white friends and Hispanic friends, and, and everybody has their different feelings based on race and kind of what they think the world expects of them. And one of the things has been what you just said is, it's almost better that we don't know, because as soon as we think we know, we fix. As long as we're in this state of feeling happy, feeling sad, I think everybody has expressed that to me. One minute I feel such hope because we're finally addressing things. The next minute I feel such despair because there's so much coming forward. Yes. And I think that that's good. It's all good. Well, I know it's all good because we wouldn't be dealing with it if it weren't. If it weren't to help us, that's the belief I have, right? God is good. We are here to grow. We are here to learn. We are here to be better.
Correct.
If we choose. And the choice comes with the lesson. The other piece I've been thinking a lot about around that is, I believe that we are constantly dealt lessons until we learn them. And we have been in revolutionary times before. And how do those usually go, right? Let's think of the French Revolution or the American Revolution or any of the revolutions, right? Where a certain group of people have felt beaten down for too long and they finally rise up to take their place. But how is it done? It's always been done in bloodshed. It's always been done through our side's right, your side's wrong. It's always been in polarity. It's always been in judgment. It's always been fight and struggle. And I'm not saying what we're feeling isn't a fight and shouldn't be a fight and struggle. It should be. We should fight the good fight with these feelings. We should allow ourselves to feel them so we know what we're dealing with. But when it comes to one another and it comes to what we think anytime we're looking out into the world and we're seeing somebody who's perpetrating us, that places us in victim position. We can't see a perpetrator without seeing ourselves as the victim. We can't. So as long as we feel perpetrated, we feel victimized. And when we're in victim position, there's not a whole lot we can do other than fight. And so my question is that here's this lesson again of revolution.
Yeah.
It's not that we shouldn't move forward into it. It's how should we move forward into it, right? I think,
Mhm.
again, that quickness to make it better makes us go straight to the, I mean, I feel like big part of it is how can we act instead of react, right? And it's
Gotcha.
hard when you're feeling pain, and it's hard when you're in anger. It's hard, when
Yeah.
you get awakened brutally. And I mean, I was mentioning this to my husband because a couple of weeks, no, months, actually about a month and a half ago now,
Hmm.
he was in a deep sleep on the couch. It was in the evening. He had fallen asleep, deep sleep. You can always tell because you can hear the snores probably
Hey,
next
don't
door.
please don't talk about snores. I do the same thing.
Yeah, you can hear the snores. Oh, he's in a deep sleep. And my daughter, unbeknownst to me, decides she's going to be a little, a little nudgy, and woke him up by dropping some water on his face. Well, it woke him up. It startled him awake, and he was angry. He
Yep.
was mad. He that was not okay for him. And
Mm-mm.
he let her know. And it was a good lesson for her.
True.
And so we were talking last week, and he says, wow, there's so much anger. I said, well, do you understand where the anger is coming? He said, oh, I get it. I mean, I can get it as much as I can get it. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, it's not what I've experienced, but I can get why and
Correct.
where the anger is coming from. And I said, well, think about how you were awakened
Mm.
by Madison. When we're in a deep sleep and we're suddenly jolted awake, one of the first responses we have is anger. And it's not that consciously we haven't been aware of the racial issues, obviously. I mean,
Hmm.
you'd have to be completely, not just asleep, but dead not to know what's
Correct.
been going on. But what I've loved listening to you is the extent of it, right? People, to your point, telling stories. This is how it's affected me. This
Yes.
is this is an example of how I've lived through that.
Mhm.
I can't say I love from a point of, oh, I love, but it has meant a lot to me to hear people's stories and the analogies they use to try to
Mhm.
get those of us who don't have to think about these things and haven't experienced them to really consider. I mean,
Correct.
I get to some extent because as a woman, I've been marginalized in my own way,
Oh yeah.
but I can't say I know completely because, again, the privilege I've had in certain ways has kept me safe from certain things, experiencing certain things. So that I want to hear about. But I think that the story, is we have deadened ourselves
Hmm.
to what we've consciously known. We've been asleep to how that's affecting us and how we've been victimizing ourselves to it,
Mm.
right? Because of many things, we think, well, what can I do? Well, who will listen? Whatever. We can tell ourselves all sorts of stories, and we have. And that keeps putting us back to sleep because we
Correct.
want to be comfortable. We want to feel safe. We don't want to feel
Yeah.
those feelings of uncertainty and fear. And is it okay for me to go out in the world because of how I'm being treated? We
Mm.
don't want to feel that. So we do whatever we can to kind of deaden that. And so, although consciously we know the storyline,
Hmm.
or subconsciously, let's say, we've known the storyline, consciously we haven't been having those conversations until now. We haven't been truly wearing our full selves
Correct.
on the exterior, allowing ourselves to feel. I mean, I love how people are having conversations.
Hmm.
One
Hmm.
side will say something. I had somebody comment, they said, I saw you like two contrary sides. What's that about? I said that they're both talking.
There you go. Yes.
I
Yes.
I don't care what they're saying as long as it's respectful, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that they're having a crucial conversation, that is the only way. If we're willing to stand together, no matter how uncomfortable it gets, instead of saying, oh, it's too much, or
Correct.
it's too uncomfortable, or what you're saying offends me too much, that's when we separate.
Yeah.
That's when we divide. Is when we say you're too much, or your story's too much, or what you're saying I don't agree with, so it's too much.
Yes. Yes.
So
Thank you again. There's so a couple different things you said that resonates with me, and consider husband and wife having an issue in the house, and because those two are Mars and Venus, right? That's far from black and white. So Mars and Venus having an issue, and Mars decides not to speak to Venus, or Venus decides not to speak to Mars, because Mars is in charge. Mars perceives that if Venus comes and he hears or she hears the other, there will be a power balance, a change in power. And I will usually think, if I am in power today and somebody else comes in power, oh my goodness, they're gonna mess me up the way I've messed them up when I was in power, right? So all of those stories you tell yourself. I had a couple talks with different people over the past week or two, and it's so, and I said, it's not, I don't want any pity. I don't want any pity for being Black. And I'm sure you don't want any pity for being white. There's God put us here for a reason, in these colors and these shades, with these minds. And I think racism is a mental disease. But I'm gonna put that in the parking lot.
Wow. We'll
You
bookmark that one.
Yeah, let's bookmark that mental disease. But this thing shows up not only in races, but it shows up in business. And when I say it shows up in business, it's like you and I collaborating on this. And it's not even a black and white. It's just collaborating on coming on this medium and sharing our views on certain things. I'm pretty sure you shared your view on something that I wasn't 100% on board, but I didn't come across the screen with a knife going, ah, girl, I'm gonna chung, 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 right? Likewise, you. We listen and we hear, and I learn new words every day from talking to you. One is egoic, right? You said that a couple of days. Had I not had this collaboration, I wouldn't think ego. Ego is the root word. Okay, so then, egoic. That's describing. Now, okay, that's it. Go, Tracy. But again, you're the linguistic queen here. But do you see how, in that simple example, Tracy, it improves me. Likewise, I improve you in whatever way I can. And it's not improving me. It's not when we sit at the table, when Mars and Venus come and they say, you know what, let's talk about this marriage. And at the end, it's all stories and lies that you're playing in your head. One, because you say, huh, this is how it's gonna be when they come and get me. Or the other person is, they keep walking around and they keep ignoring it. But here's where and I'm going to be all about the place today, Tracy. Just
Where
let's.
things are.
Yeah.
You're matching and mirroring where the things are.
My train of thoughts are just going 100 miles per hour here. The reason why it seems that people are saying, "Hey, you white man, he's been in power for years, right? He's been in power, and he controls the system. He controls the system in a way. And the way he controls it, and I was talking to an American Indian earlier, and this lady, she prefaced it with saying, "Woman, I don't know what's going on. I understand my husband's Black, but I don't understand the Black experience." She's mixed. She said, "But I don't understand because people don't put me in Black. They don't put me in white. They don't put me in. I'm just a question mark." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, wow." But then she says, "I have been fighting from day one by getting education because they said education will open up a door. And when education opens up a door, I'm going to step in it and be that person I'm meant to be." And she says, the funny thing? Education has not opened that door. I'm still a woman. And then I am a question mark. I'm not even associated with white, Black, whatever. I'm just an anomaly in this system. So I hear what your issues are, black man, black woman, but Wulwyn, but then here's what she goes on to say. She says, I am so enraged. I'm enraged. And here's what I want to do. It is my first time hearing this part. And I said, you know what, just speak, because it's when we have conversations, that's when solutions come up. We listen and we hear options. So there's that option that exists. I didn't even know. She says, but this is not my option. She says, I want to hit where it hurts. But even if I hit where it hurts, it doesn't do it for me. And I will keep hitting. And it will, if a bone breaks, and I'm looking at her like, oh my goodness, whoa. If a bone breaks, that's not enough for me. Even if they die, that's not enough for me. Because it's the systemic,
The system.
the systemic way that I have been raped. The systemic way that I have been raped, and it's been created in a law. It's a constitution. It's all these things that have been placed. And then as she was talking, I looked at her and I said, oh my goodness. So they took you from your land. She says, yeah. I said, but listen to this. They took me from mine. They took me from mine when they killed you. They took me from mine to come and work the land, because had they been smart, they would have kept you and just say, hey, work, right? But they got rid of them. And then they brought me here. Then we can think about the Italians. We can think about the Polish, the Japanese, all these different, you see, when I was enraged about this system, I meditated for a while, and then it hit me. It hit me with a ton of bricks, and I'm going to express this. Here I am judging, and the Holy Spirit said, I want you to go back to Liberia. Go back to where you were born. There's an issue that exists, Traci, that is, I would say, tribal, and it's the free slaves, the free men that came from America went down to Liberia, because Liberia was formed by the American Colonization Society, right? They bought the land, and the free men get there. There are natives there, right? Natives meaning native to the soil. Because of the way how the free men have experienced life, do you know that the identical tier system was transposed there, and they started to treat the natives that way? So my name is Porte. My mom is a native. My dad is what we say American Liberian, right? I truly, and this is where it comes, people who may be listening and would say, I don't see in that, I don't see in native, or I see the person, period, right? I see the person. But here is what hit me. The Holy Spirit said, but do you know that you can go into if you go into a court system, because your name is Porte, and somebody else has an indigenous name, do you know that you are the privileged person, perceived privileged person in that scenario? Do you know that if you because of your name, there are certain doors opened for you, and they'll recognize your name. Oh, Porte, okay, oh, your grandfather, you're this. And then it hit me. It's not a white and black. It's not only a white and black thing. This thing it's just a nastiness. The nastiness that is in humans, that's in us, that when we allow it to take over, we just want to be lords, masters, but we have to fight it. And here is what happened when I understood that. It hit me and I said, oh my goodness, there are stories that that person, he or she has, that can talk to me about the inequities that exist for them in Liberia. There are stories in India. There are stories in Europe. There are stories in Australia. There are Aborigines, right? There are stories that until we listen, and as we said, until we have these conversations to uncover the darkness that it is. Because when we uncover it, when we see it for what it is, then there are solutions for it.
I love it. So I want to thank you for that. You unfolded so many things that I have been feeling into. This is just the beginning. We're making it about race now because that's the storyline we're following. But what is really going on is exactly what you spoke to. We're talking about, when we talk about systemic, we're talking about systems of categorization. We are humans that have learned to categorize in order to comprehend. But think about it. As soon as we categorize something, what are we doing? We're immediately noticing the differences between that thing and other things. This is why we put it in this category. It's because it has sameness to the things in this category and differences to the things in other categories. So the very system of categorization focuses on differences. So then we have to rank them because that's also how we learn to prioritize, right? They talk about prioritization. And so which one is more important? So now they're all in different categories and they're different. Now, which one is more important? What do we do first? What do we put last? So many things come from, and if you think about it, everything's like that. I really love, I'm going to do a shout out to our friend, Ed Dudley. He posted something the other day about white supremacy, and he put it in the statistic numbers, X number of people who are white in high prioritized positions in our society. And it, I love when numbers can do that. Measurement tools can really make us go, whoa.
Yes.
And yet, I don't believe it's even about white people. I believe it's about certain white people. Because I think what we're going to find is when we go from the race thing to I think the next to come is we're going to realize, we did the Me Too a while ago, right? Women. And then came the race question, the race conversation. And we're going to be in that hopefully for a very long time. But it's going to be an unfoldment of different levels of this that we're talking about right here. The next one is going to be human trafficking. Things have been dripping on us little bit, but we have not even uncovered the depth of that animal. So this isn't just Black people. This is Black people, white people, Asian people. I mean, all colors of people.
Correct.
Right? And who's doing that? Who's responsible for that marginalization? Who's responsible for creating complete cultures that are off the grid? Which means child trafficking has been going on, or human trafficking has been going on for so long. There are people who have been born within that world that don't have papers, don't have an identity. Talk about being a question mark. They don't exist to the rest of us. We don't even know about them, period. It's not that we don't know what to call them. We don't even know that they exist.
Correct.
So there's going to be these levels of unfoldment that people are just going to keep going, but every time we uncover it, we're forced to deal with it, right? Because once we know, we can't not know. And to your point of solution, we have to acknowledge it. We have to address it in order to come up with solutions for it. But I think this is just the beginning. And I think one of the greatest places to look, so in the early 2000s, are you familiar with the work of Brene Brown?
Yeah.
So I think Brene Brown brought us some of the greatest research in the early 2000s on shame. And her research on shame speaks to all of this. It speaks to both sides and why each side, you know, if we want to call it each side, like there's two sides, there's way more than two sides, but each side that exists is responding to this current conversation the way that it is responding.
Mm-hmm.
And it boils down because, I mean, I have some white friends who are like, oh my God, I feel so much shame. And even though I know I've always treated all people as, I still, because I'm white, I feel shame.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say, please don't do that. It's kind of like your comment about pity. Please don't pity me. There's no reason.
Correct.
Please don't go to shame. That's the last thing we should do. Because shame is the very operating tool that's creating this. You know, one of the premises of what she talks about in shame, in her shame theory research, or her shame theory, is that control comes from this concept of shame. When I'm not good enough, I have to create and establish a condition under which I am good enough. And the quickest way to significance is to control another. Quickest way to significance. Tony Robbins talks about this in most of his workshops. He says, you know, if you feel like you have no significance, all you have to do is grab a gun and stick it to someone's head and you suddenly have significance.
Correct.
And so it's why a lot of people have felt they needed to resolve. There's so much shame. Shame continues to develop this culture of going to the extremes in order to feel good enough. And it's happening on both ends, right? That's where we really are unified. I would hate to be unified in shame, but we have been.
Correct. No.
You know, those who are controlling and those who are being controlled are in shame. And that's why everybody's angry right now. Is because we're waking up like the drips on the forehead in a deep sleep to where we are, right? And there's actually nothing further down than shame. Shame is, I am so worthless. I mean, it's a continuum, right? At its worst, I am so I had no worth. I have nothing to lose. I can and will do anything to even have a margin of an inch of significance because I am literally nothing. So this is important conversations to be had. And I tell anybody who is not familiar with that research and that shame theory to look it up.
Yeah.
She has an amazing TED talk on shame.
Yeah.
Brene Brown does. And you can Google shame theory, Brene Brown shame theory. And it really exposes the kind of the core of what we're dealing with. And that's why it's not good enough. Your friend is saying, I could break bones, the person could die and it still wouldn't be good enough because we can't, you know, it's like a surrogacy. Finding significance through hurting someone else is a surrogacy for the way in which we really want to feel significant, which is through being seen, heard, and loved. Yes, we can get it by scaring someone, but that's not how we want to. That is a quick and very dangerous surrogate. And it is not what we want. So we do it again and again and again because we're not getting what we need, even when we have significance in that moment and somebody does as they're told and we control them because we have a gun to their head or we're treating them as less than or whatever we're doing. We still don't feel significant because guess what? We also have conscience. And our conscience feels this big and this much more into shame. It actually takes us in the exact opposite direction that we're trying to use it to move beyond.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the I I am confused. Why did I say confused? You know, in these times, so what's his name in Blink?
Mm.
Malcolm Gladwell.
Malcolm Gladwell.
I think it was in Blink because I read, as soon as I touched one of those books, I just bought every single bit and read every single one of his books. So I run sometimes. I run sometimes with the
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 Audible.
concepts in them, right? But
Mm.
this one was so Blink is talking about the police and or it's Tipping Point, one of them, Tipping Point or Blink,
Okay.
where we are a bunch of layers of experiences. We are so just what you were talking about, categorizing and ranking and prioritizing. I turn, and as soon as I see something based on my various layers of interaction with it, I create a conclusion right there and then, and I operate on that conclusion. I execute on that conclusion. Um, and I'm going to bring it back to the police, right? The police says, "Who, the black man, criminal, um, it's not supposed to be." And I would say this. I think I wrote something on we're building a house in Fuquay. And yeah, and I'm there with my family rejoicing and having fun. You know, this is where the office is gonna be downstairs and the kitchen there and da da da. And this cop passes. This is on a one-way dead end street. He passes. He comes back. Comes back again. So I'm looking. I'm in the house, you know, sticks. Um, and I'm looking. I'm saying, okay. We go down, and I finally remembered, and I didn't put this part in the story. I hailed him. I said, "Hey, hey, hey, hey!" I stopped. I said, "Is everything okay?" Because I've seen you go back up and down here. And he goes, "Oh no, no, everything is okay." Then he says, "Then had everything been okay, he would have said, sure,' and pull out, right?" He said, "What are you doing? What are you doing around? You know, what are you doing around here?" So Blink or Tip, there's Blink, right? Or was it
Like,
Tipping Point? So Blink tells him, oops, this guy is not supposed to be in his neighborhood. He can't afford it because of all his layers of interaction or his tainted form or thought of whatever created those conclusions. But he has to come in it skittishly to not be outright, "You're not supposed to be here. Oh, I must be intelligent to say this. I can't come." And he says, "Yeah, so what are you doing in this? What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm building my house." Oh, okay. Congratulations." And then he leaves. That same house, um, and I'm still on Blink. I'm going somewhere. We visited a church. We visited a church, and we filled a card. And it was at Bob Barker. They were having church at Bob Barker, you know, in his foyer. And Bob Barker is the factory up in Fuquay that builds uniforms for prison. So I go there. We go to my family. We go and we sit. We fill the card. We just moved in the area, and I'm out in the yard. And when I'm working in the yard, sister, I don't look like this.
yeah, I don't look like this when I'm working in the yard either.
So I mean, it's sweat and fingernails in the dirt, and because I love to feel the dirt, right? And I'm sweating, and I got this torn shirt on and my torn pants. And the visiting team from the church arrived. They arrived at the driveway. They park at the end of the driveway, so it's you could say maybe 50 yards. And I am digger. I'm trying to plant some crepe myrtles on to line the driveway so that they can grow and do a tunnel, and I can shave it and it's neat, and you have the pink and white and blue. So I have my vision in my head, and I'm digging my hole and bam, bam. And they pass, and they go to the door, ding dong, ring the bell, and mm, mm, uh, and I already see the play already. I'm digging, Traci. uh, they ring and ring. I was the only one at home. They ring and ring and ring and ring, and then they came by. Excuse me. So yeah, boom. Um, is anyone home? I said, I think so. I think so. Boom. Boom. He says, well, we came to the owner of the house. I said, okay. We want to leave a message. I said, no, say it. I'm pretty sure he will hear it. Boom. Boom. He goes, no, he wouldn't. We came to the owner. I said, no, he will. Boom. Boom. And then he says he wouldn't. I say, he will. Boom. We go back and forth, and I look at him. I go, what is it you want to tell the owner of this house? And then it clicked to him. He was like, I mean, so I gotta give it to y'all. Y'all have a bad way of being embarrassed, man. Your pigmentation just gets red. And you're like, I mean, I can hide it, right? I can blush, and you wouldn't even know I'm blushing. Dude just turned red. I'm like, ooh, got him. And I look. He says, you are. I say, yeah. I say, I am. How can I help you? Well, we came by, and I felt sorry for him. I felt sorry for him. And he spoke, and I told him, yeah. And you know what I did? The next week I went to church, and I went to the pastor, because I wasn't reporting them. I was trying to improve them. Because here's what could have happened. I could have gotten angry and said, I'm not going there anymore, they're racist, etc. But it's a conversation that needs to be had.
That's right.
And my wife was telling me, honey, don't. I'm like, no, it sounds cool. I'm just gonna tell him. And I went to him, and I went to the pastor and said, and they saw me. The guys who came to visit, they saw me come back, right? But I don't have the green fingers. I don't have the black, the crime on me, right? And then I tell them, I say, your team came out, and I was working in the yard, and they seemed to have overlooked that I would be the owner and I was the worker. I was the guy who was hired to come and work. I said, tell your team to respect all human beings. If they enter the yard and anybody's there, you just don't know. And it has happened to me. The owner, one guy had just moved in the same neighborhood, and I don't know him. He's a black dude. I have never seen him, but people were working in the area, and I go to him. I say, hey man, what's up? He says, nothing much, man. I'm like, I say, you're working here, or, and I put the or. He says, I'm the owner. I said, my bro, what's going on, right? We blink. We blink every single time that when we see something, we categorize in milliseconds. It's me walking and a white lady when I'm 6'3", I like to think 6'4", with sneakers. Me walking past inside a white lady, a petite size 0, and she clutches her bag, right? And so you know what I do? I go, just if I'm trying to be foolish and nasty and crazy, I just do a little, and I like, I started to laugh. So what my wife does is, guess what? When we're in the car and a white male passes, you know what she does? She goes and hits the door, the lock, and she goes, and then the person looks at her like, and then we look and we laugh. So just so you see how it feels. So and just what you said earlier is how you feel. You have to understand how the person feels. And I was speaking, and I will, punt back to you after this one. right in this home, our kids, I keep telling them, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And they keep doing it. Let's go. It's time to go. And they're, we're coming, we're coming. Okay. They get in the car, we go. I'm late. It's time for dance rehearsal or a basketball game. And they're, Daddy, please get in the car. Let's go. I don't want to. And I go, no, I'm not. Why? Why? My fingers. I said, nah. I said, guess what? I'm going to make you late. Because when I was telling you the last time, you told me, I'm just making noise. So guess what? You will feel it. You will understand how I feel so that the next time it occurs, you know. And guess what? The next time when it happens, when I said time to go, oh, we got to go because we don't want for Daddy to make us late next time. So we get a feeling of it to understand. So how does power understand how we feel when power is not even inquiring? Power doesn't even want to recognize how we
Power is so far removed. And I think that's one of the things I realized about privilege, whatever privilege, white privilege, wealth privilege. I mean, there's all sorts of privilege, right? I love Justin Minot. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He does a podcast. I mean, really has posted some fantastic things on LinkedIn and I believe Facebook as well. He's a light-skinned African-American man, but he has been so vocal about his thoughts and he has done it in such a direct, bold, but
why you gotta
careful.
go light skin? Why you gotta go light skin for the Dog Brothers? Come on now.
I know.
I'm just
He considers himself, that's what he said, right? So he says it's a privilege, right? Because I'm seen differently.
Wow.
Right? He goes, I also have male privilege. And he said, so I'm not taking myself out of the privilege conversation. And I appreciate that for a lot of reasons. And I think it also helps people not immediately get defensive, because that's one thing I've talked to people about. It's like, oh, I'm being told I'm like, no, it's not that you have treated people badly. It's trying to point out, and again, I've listened to some people who've explained it in such great ways, but it's, he's done a really great job, I think, at trying to do exactly what you're talking about, trying to get people to feel. He's trying to state analogies that people can understand and that are accessible to all of us as human beings, so that we can feel that, to put ourselves in like, oh, I mean, that's what I've been doing with the privilege thing, but also the experience thing, so many of the stories I've been listening to are kind of similar to what you said about your house and being in the neighborhood and how, the cop that was like, why are you here? I've had experiences that as a woman, in high school and college, going to parties, and if I was dressed for the party, guys assuming that I want to be picked up. A guy can walk by and nobody's trying to assume that, hey,
Yep.
I'm just walking to maybe get some water or something. And it's like, hey, baby, why are you assuming that that's what I'm there for? Right? So, as a woman, I've been in those experiences too. And the feeling is what I've been tapping into. Is that feeling of less than, like, wanting to be, handled in such a way, wanting to be controlled in such a way.
Correct.
Somebody having an idea of what I'm good for in such a way. And suddenly I'm not a part of that equation. It doesn't matter what my name is, who I am as a person, right? And that feeling, it does cause shame, because even if you're confident, what is shame? Shame is I'm not good enough. So anytime we're being dealt with that kind of behavior, we're being dealt with that kind of address, it is going to shame us. Whether we accept that shame or not is up to us. Correct. But it's going to shame us. We get shamed enough times, it becomes like a Pavlovian dog thing where it's completely subconscious. It's conditioning. That we consciously may say, no, I'm a proud person. I feel good about myself and everything. But because we've had those experiences of being addressed in that way, time and time again, it has bred some degree of shame within us that we may not even be aware of.
True.
Right? And that's how insidious shame is. That it can seep into our veins even when we don't know we've been injected with it.
Mm. Mm.
And when it's there, it wreaks havoc in ways, again, because it's subconscious. You can act intentionally with the conscious level of things, but you can't act intentionally with the subconscious. Right? We have to bring the unconscious to the conscious in order to deal with it. And that's what's happening now. That's what these conversations are about. That's what in a playful way, you're like, hey, this is what it feels like from my end. Like, get a look at this. And some people may not want to look, but I think what's great about what's going on right now is it's forcing people to whatever degree to have some sort of action. If the action is to shut the door, they're making everybody else is aware of who's shutting the door.
Correct.
Right? If they're opening their door and saying, I've never been in this frame of mind or been in this perspective, but I'd like to learn more. Everybody sees that they're leaning in and wanting to learn more. The people who are boldly going forward and having a lot to say, people are noticing who those people are. We're coming out into the sun.
Correct.
We're coming out to be seen, heard. And my hope is that we realize we've all been marginalized to some extent, and not to use that as a dynamic for conversation. Oh, me too.
Correct. No, correct.
We were at that level back when the Me Too campaign happened with women. We've emerged and we've evolved, I think, beyond that into a place of saying, how can I make that relevant to my experiences so I feel what that person, again, to your point, feel what that person is saying. I don't just understand the story they're telling me and, oh gosh, that must have been uncomfortable. I feel it. I feel, because I had a similar experience. With me, it's interesting. My daughter, so I have one daughter. My daughter was born at Johns Hopkins University Hospital. And my OBGYN was not on call when I went into labor. And so I was given the on-call doctor at the time. And he was delivering 3 other babies. And he was, very prestigious looking African-American man, came in, introduced himself. And I'm going to get a little shaky on this, but I'm saying this for a reason. I felt immediately like, oh, he has a kind face. I feel comfortable because, when you give birth, you're not in the most comfortable position in many ways.
Correct.
And I'll jump to the conclusion of the story. 2 years later, we were in North Carolina at the time. I got a letter in the mail basically asking me if I wanted to be a part of a lawsuit against this doctor. He had been working for Johns Hopkins in their system for over 10 years. He had been under investigation and committed suicide because he was filming women during checkups and during birth and selling it on the black market, because apparently some people get into that kind of thing. So the level of betrayal I felt, what was important was me telling my story. So I did become a part of that lawsuit. And part of the process was doing an interview, right? Because the systems, they have to prioritize who's been more, I hate that. Who's been more abused? They get more money. Who's been, and for me, I kept saying to the interviewer, who was a psychologist, they rightfully put people with psychology degrees in that position of interview, which I thought was really nice. I said, I don't care if I get any money out of this. The healing is going to come from sharing with somebody else my story. I will never have another child. So this is my only birth experience. And I feel that there's a taintedness to that experience now that I can't take back. I can't have it any other way. And yet I'm going to learn from that. And at this time, just speaking that story, just telling what it means to me and how I feel in that was extraordinarily healing for me. And I was awarded, ended up being in the category of those who they felt were most damaged. But I already felt By the time the money came in was years later, right? Because these things take a long time.
Yeah.
I already felt, I want to say vindicated wasn't the right word, but I already felt healed in a lot of ways because, and when I was talking about it to friends, it was because I was given this beautiful opportunity. And the person who was interviewing me was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, to fully tell my story, and I felt she fully heard me.
Heard it. Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
And so I've been going, and the reason I mention this story is because I've been going to that story a lot
Okay.
as I've been listening to people. Is that's to me, that's my, you know, kind of example of what it must feel like
Mm.
to
Mm-hmm.
be abused because you're in a position that is just natural to you.
Correct.
I'm a woman giving birth, as women who give birth have been doing for thousands of years.
Yes.
And I trusted this environment to do that. It's one of the most sacred things
Yep.
a woman can do with her body. I trusted this environment. The environment let me down.
Mm-hmm.
I address that. I tell that story so I can heal. Because
Mm-hmm.
there's no amount of money, there's no amount of apology, there's no amount of anything I
Mm-hmm.
can be told from the outside world to make that experience different.
Correct.
But me telling my story can change that experience for me.
Yes. Yes.
And so, you know, I think that that's, like I said, moving forward, I think many of us, if we don't just make it about the race issue, we make it about hearing people for the stories that they need to tell so that the rest of us get a better understanding
Mm-hmm.
of, again, walking in one another's shoes. How else do we do that other than to feel,
Correct.
right? We can't intellectually walk in one another's shoes, but we can find this way to, you know, connect through things that felt, you know, if I could gather the level of which this wounded you, that's a story I can feel into. And that makes me, allows me to walk in your shoes a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and to establish a better understanding of what that experience must mean to you.
Mm.
And then you become me, right? That's what unity is.
Correct.
We are one.
Correct.
And so we must tell these stories. We must, you know, and I'm not trying to overshadow Black Lives Matter right now with this story about a
No.
white woman giving birth.
No.
It is really to say I honor the stories so much. I want to feel them. And I want people to know that, you know, that they're not alone, even
Correct.
if we don't look alike. And because of that, our experiences aren't exactly the same.
Correct.
We've all been marginalized. We've all been abused in some way.
Mm.
The degree of that, we need to get rid of this prioritization. We need to get rid of this categorization. That's not important.
Mm.
The fact that we have had some experience somewhere, you know, and if we haven't, we can only lean in as much as we had the experience.
Correct.
Right?
I thank you. We thank you. You yourself thank yourself. I thank you. We thank you for expressing and coming on here. I know I I looked forward to it. I would call this episode maybe empathy, right? Where you truly empathize with the other. When your house is burning down, it's, and I started with that. When your house is burning down, um, I need to come and assist you because there's a day coming when my house will be burning down, and I hope and pray that when mine's burning down, I will come to you will come rather to with your bucket brigade and assist me in getting my pictures, in getting my milestone awards, in getting my memories, so that my memories can live on. I I I can't breathe. Calling Mama. I haven't watched it. I've heard I can't watch it. I will not watch it because I have pictures in my mind pictures stay in my mind. I pray for healing across all sides. I don't. I understand the shame that because I'm one race, I feel. You told me about your friend who's feeling as if they're the problem also, right? Because I'm white, but I'm not associated with that. But because I'm white, oh my goodness, I'm dropping the ball here, right? I I pray for healing on this end also, right? Because this house is burning down now. Um, I pray for healing that people will speak to themselves and speak to others not looking like themselves, right? Because it's what you and I are doing now. So I'm speaking to you're white, I'm black, but I'm hearing your story about the birth issue. So some people who would be watching me say, didn't have to bring that in there. But yes, had to bring that in there because there are connections. And in order for me to feel something, I must connect to something that's related to it. It doesn't mean I'm watering down your house burning down. I'm thinking, how can I correlate so that I can relate? And then we can come to a level set and say, okay, you know what? Let's make these things, let's eradicate such.
It's what your kids did. It's like, oh, I want to be on time, so I get to help dad be on time, right? I don't want my house to burn down, and I don't want yours to either. And I know what it's like, if I do, having their house burned down. So I'm going to come and stand by you as you put out the fire of your house, because I know, or I can feel what it would feel like to have my house burned down, and I would not want that. Therefore, I don't want that for you either. And I think that's the piece. I love that you're calling this, and I want to call it too, empathy. I think that this is the definition of empathy.
Correct.
Is allowing ourselves to feel. I mean, I can't tell the story of being a Black person because I'm not. Mm-hmm. But the best I can get to that is finding my own stories in order to have that empathy. And it's not like I even have to feel it to want to stand next to you. I stand next to you because I believe everybody gets a seat at the table.
Correct.
Everybody gets a seat at the table because everybody's born valuable. Everybody. I don't care who. I mean, when I was working in the federal prison, that's what people are like, oh, well, and I'm like, they're human beings and they matter, yes. Right? Their value is there. I don't believe they would be living and breathing if they didn't have value. Yes. And so I think it's really living by those standards and furthering that. What more can we say? How more can we lean into this? And also acting with discernment, because to your point, I'm the same way. Visually, things stick. Mm-hmm. So knowing that, I get to gauge how I show up. That's discernment, right? Just because you person over here do it this way, I honor that, but I may need to do it a little bit differently and honor who I am. Correct. as a person as well. So I think that's part of being empathetic also.
So to all our viewers, thank you, listeners. Thank you for spending the time with us. Go out there and talk. Go out there and engage, because you can't do it alone. Nobody's an island. Traci, thank you so much. Once again, it's proven why we got together. I truly appreciate you.
I appreciate and love you so much, my friend.
Same here, dear. So, team, take care. And bye-bye.
See you in 2 weeks.
Okay.